Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just going into earlier when you was talking about the comeliness of Christ, that's not talking about his physical appearance, but he wasn't in his grace or in his godly form.
Glory.
Glory, yes, sir.
Glory.
Is that any correlation when it says in the Song of Solomon 1:5, I am black but comely? Is there any correlation with that comely?
No. The word does mean the same thing. Now, the angels are. You know what? I give you a perfect example. Go to Revelations 1:14. Give you a perfect example. So when because again, to combat the thought that that's talking about Christ was just like somebody said, I'm using your word, busted, ugly. Somebody said toe up, Let's read this and let's read it, not just go ahead, read that.
Revelation chapter 1, verse 14. Mm-hmm. His head and his hairs were white like wool, his white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire.
So it says that his head and his hairs were white as snow. Now I got some white hairs, right? But it's like a patch. And then I think I got some on the side of my head, like here and there. Some on the top here and there, right? It said his head and his hairs were white as snow and woolly, right?
Yes, sir.
Read on.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
Read on.
And his feet like unto fine brass.
Hey, Neo, do me a favor. Pull up fine brass up there. I'm show you something about that. Because Christ was a sacrifice, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Could we sacrifice a spotted lamb?
No. No, sir.
What did that lamb have to look like for us to sacrifice it?
Perfect. No blemishes.
Perfect. Nothing wrong with it. No bumps. What's that thing they say the deer's got now? Meningitis, deer meningitis or something like that? Them bump, yeah. They call it something.
Meningitis.
No, it's something. Tuberculosis. Deer tuberculosis? Huh? Right. That's an imperfection, the consumption that we cannot sacrifice. They're all poor examples. Yep, go down. Want fine brass. Or polished brass, as it says. Type in polished brass, my bad. Polish. Because polish means to heat brass in a furnace, that's how you polish it. That is what makes it fine. Fine brass is not just brass that's new and shiny. That's not what fine brass means. It means brass that is polished by burning it in the furnace. See? Thank you. That's polished brass. Select that. So that's what Christ looked like. And when what do you do when you polish something? You not impurities. No. You get rid of all the blemishes. When you take your boots and we polish our boots, right? What are we doing? We went to camp last week. We got scuffs on it. It's the dust from the streets, all that on our boots. We polish it to do what? To clean it, get all that off, make it smooth and perfect. So when we read Christ looked like this, he was not ugly, busted, toe up. What else we said? All that stuff we said earlier. That ain't what he was. That ain't what he was. He just wasn't in a way that we would see him as the Son of God. Just like you men. Don't nobody see you as you niggas. You ain't the sons of God. What? That's what Wisdom of Solomon 5 is talking about. Read that again. Go back to Isaiah 53. Christ was not ugly. He wasn't like Rico's. He wasn't a pretty boy, but he was not ugly. I don't know where the scriptures don't say that.
Isaiah chapter 53, verse 2.
Come on.
For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant,
Mm-hmm.
and as a root out of a dry ground.
Come on.
He hath no form.
Hold on. The tender plant is going into what? He shall grow up a tender plant among him. What is we talking about? Just blurt it out. He's going to grow up as an Israelite man. Read.
He hath no form.
Nope. The root part.
I'm sorry. And as a root out of a dry ground.
What are we talking about? A root out of a dry ground. No knowledge. He's going to grow up in a place where there's no knowledge. Right? And in why is it no knowledge? I want precepts because I gave them all to y'all. Right. The leaders are weak, and we're in what? Captivity. Read.
He hath no form nor comeliness.
He has no form is going into what?
Hebrews 2:16.
Right. He was not in his glory. Read. Nor comeliness.
Nor comeliness.
Come on.
And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him.
That we should desire him as what? The Son of God, the Messiah. That's why in Hebrews 2 it says what it says. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels. You read down and it said that he had to suffer and be tempted in all ways that he might be a merciful high priest. Meaning he would be worthy to judge us, having been going through everything we go. He understands what we feel. He understands what we suffering. He understands how we tempted. That's what you're reading about right there in Isaiah 53. Hebrews chapter 2 is your parallel. All right? So that comeliness is not talking about he disfigured, all of that, because the scriptures say that he had no imperfections. Neither will he be acceptable as a sacrifice to the Lord if he did. Remember, note what happened. What the scripture say about the cripples and sacrifice? They can't serve as a priest. Who is Christ? The high priest. What about a crippled lamb or cripple anything? Can they sacrifice? Can they be sacrificed? No. What about a blemished priest? A blemished sacrifice can't serve. Unacceptable. So there's your parallel. There's your correlation. All right.
What is a nation? Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.